these truths to be self-evident.
That all men are created equal.
As a member of Congress, I get to have a lot of really interesting people in the office. Experts on what they're talking about.
This is the podcast
for insights into the issues.
China, bioterrorism, Medicare for all. In-depth discussions.
Breaking it down into simple terms. We hold
these truths.
We hold these truths.
With Dan Crenshaw.
The Eagle has landed.
Welcome back, folks, to Hold These Truths. Got a really interesting guest for you today, Dr. Mike Israetel. And we're going to talk about fitness. We're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about America's obsession with comfort and accepting the body you're in, as you know, if it's okay, but not okay to be unhealthy. There's a lot of good reasons for that. One, it's bad for you. It's bad for society. I happen to do a lot of healthcare policies. So, the vast majority of our costs to the healthcare system are because of obesity, which leads to heart disease and long-term chronic illnesses. So there are a lot of reasons that we need to be talking about this. To some extent, I think that's what the Make America Healthy Again movement is about. We can talk about that, but we got a great guest on who dives into all these kinds of subjects, whether it's weight training, fitness, nutrition, all of it. So, Dr. Mike, thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
I want to say a little bit about you first, actually, to tell the guests here. So, you have a PhD in sports physiology. You're co-founder of the Renaissance Periodization, which is one of the clearest, sharpest voices in the world on evidence-based fitness. Maybe we start there. I mean, what is that group, the Renaissance? What does it mean? Renaissance Periodization. What do you mean by that?
Well, being in government yourself, I'm sure you hang out with lots of lizard people. We're like the cabal above that. So we deal with Illuminati, all those types of folks. We really this is where they go to meet up. It's a social club. But if it wasn't that,
I knew this was going to be a more interesting podcast.
Yeah, it's a fun place. It's a company. It's a software company. We make the diet coach and hypertrophy app. So 2 apps, one to tell you what to eat so you can get in shape, one to tell you how to train so you can get in shape. And we also have a YouTube channel and the podcast and all this other stuff. So we're just trying to help folks from every walk of life get access to the kind of information they need to get in shape. And all they need to bring is a teeny amount of money and a whole lot of willpower and consistency. That last part's tough. And that's where the stumbling block often is.
Yeah, I mean, right. You see gym memberships explode after January 1st, usually New Year's resolution. I'm finally going to do it. Finally going to get in shape. And, discipline is a hard thing to maintain, I suppose. And I think, one of the reasons I guess is like, I guess I had the benefit of spending the younger years of my life in the SEAL teams. So fitness is just a part of that. And so there's an advantage there because you sort of have a base of fitness if you start early. And even if you, I don't know, get injured, like go blind because a bomb hits you in the face and you're just kind of out of commission for a few months.
I don't know anyone who that's ever happened to. So clearly you're just making things up.
I know a few people or a variety of reasons, right? Like I'm very injury prone, so it's happened a few times. But your body has some sort of a muscle memory, I guess, so to speak, and you can come back to your level of fitness a lot easier. It's a lot harder if you're like 35 and you're just, it's time to start. So I mean, that discipline from an early age is super important. So. Well, tell me about the app a little bit. Like, what can someone expect to gain from that?
Yeah. So the one thing the app doesn't do is it doesn't give you discipline. It doesn't give you motivation. It doesn't give you a purpose. And it doesn't give you any kind of reason not to just rest on your laurels and do nothing about anything. But if you bring in the idea that you want to do something, the app kind of gives you the rest. So the Diet Coach app asks you kind of what your schedule looks like, what your goals are, how much you weigh right now, what you want to weigh in XYZ number of months. And then it can build you a meal plan that if you just follow that meal plan, the results are almost guaranteed that you will lose a ton of fat, retain and regain a bunch of muscle, and just look how you want. It's one of these things where if you ask someone, someone was trying to train up for getting into Bud's program or getting into Ranger School or something. It's not rocket science how to train someone up to be able to be competent. The question is how much pain are they really interested in handling, and is their body going to be able to sustain that kind of damage? And so the apps really lay out hey, here's what you can be doing. And it's a big I think it's a huge thing. It's a huge benefit because a lot of times people have the desire, but they end up doing the wrong stuff. They train wrong, they diet wrong, so on and so forth. And so our hypertrophy training app, which is an app focused on muscle growth training, it builds an entire plan for you from scratch. You can modify it as much as you like. Then you can actually have a plan. You go to the gym, you pull up the app, it shows you videos of all the exercises to do with the proper technique and explanations. You go to the exercises, you get out of the gym, repeat, repeat, repeat. You log all your efforts, and after a while, you're in shape. So what we've managed to do at RP is we managed to condense the information problem down to all functionally nothing. Like for basically, 30 or 40 bucks a month, you can get the combo of the two apps and just get all the knowledge you need. So we're talking about just a little bit over $1 a day and you're good to go. But the rest of the equation now is in effort, willpower, consistency, motivation, etc. I talk a lot about those things, but that's one of those things where neither government policy nor an app can solve. It's a very intricate conversation with one human to another to figure out what's it going to take for you to come out and join our little fitness bandwagon. And for many people, the answer is I'm already here. For many people, the answer is, okay, let's have this conversation. Let's get nuanced. Let's get me in. And unfortunately, the reality of the world is that for many people, and just no disrespect to them at all, fitness just isn't their thing. And so no amount of coaxing is getting them to do anything, but that's why we live in a free country, so we can see some fat people and be like, dope, I hope that food was tasty. And it probably was.
Maybe. How do you tailor the solutions to each person? Is it you need I assume a decent amount of information from them to take a survey? Do they do any testing? Like what's the best way to go about
photo,
this?
all of your credit cards, children's names where they go to school. Dan, just
Makes
real
sense.
simple stuff like that. Just something you should be able to give any company and trust.
Yeah. Well, you didn't mention social security numbers, so I don't even know what you're doing.
So once we have your passport photo, we don't really need that. It turns out we just come get you. So what we collect is information like your height, your weight, your sexual, I was going to say sexual orientation. That's for extra credit. Meh.
Don't say that on my show.
Like sex. I'm sorry. Yes. So your sex, and then a lot of what we collect is like, hey, when are you free to eat? When is times you don't really want to eat food? How many times a day do you want to eat? Because there's a few variables you have to get spot on, like calories and the amounts of protein and stuff. Like those we can pretty much tell you what those are going to be. How many meals you need to eat per day, when you need to eat them, what specific foods you want to fill them in. Huge carte blanche, tons of variation, a lot of people welcomed into that tent. And so we collect a bunch of those kinds of variables and then really ask you, hey, how do you feel about this and that? You can always change it later. For the weight training app, the hypertrophy app, we ask you more or less the same variables, but we can also ask you things like, hey, what kind of equipment do you have around to train with so that you don't put something in your app that you don't have going on. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I have workouts. I'm like, okay, this is my hotel workout, because I travel all the time. So I pretty much know what's always going to be in a hotel. A maximum of 50-pound dumbbells and a treadmill.
Those are heavy. Yeah.
But I've got a workout, right? It's a quarter mile sprint. It's a 6-minute mile, and then 10 thrusters with 50-pound dumbbells 3 times. Yeah. That takes me 5-10 minutes, like 10 minutes. I don't know. But it's quick. And another thing I tell people is get it out of your head that you need your fitness program to be like an hour in the gym every day. Like sometimes you just can't make that happen. Get it in your head that it's okay to do 5 minutes because at least you did something, and your schedule doesn't allow you to do an hour. Have some equipment at home. I have this band workout. It's the X3. It's kind of cool.
Oh, that sounds advanced.
Do you like it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't, but it sounds.
I'll show it to you. So, I want to be pumping up all these other brands and stuff, but it's just this.
Neat. Okay, cool. Yeah, it'll do something.
Yeah, you can do bench with this. You can do deadlifts. You can do squats. You can do curl. And it has that variable resistance element to it. You get a really good pump off of it it's just in the office. So when I'm just here, I don't get a great workout routine in DC because our schedule's insane. So it's only when I get to go home, and even at home. How often
are you in DC? What fraction of the year are you in DC?
Seems like all the time now. This year's a little bit different because of the big beautiful bill that we've been working on. So we've had more days in DC than normal, but I think a typical calendar might look like might look like 40% of the time. In reality, it tends to be that could be true, but you're also spending a lot less time at home because say there's an off week and we have to travel on a congressional delegation. We do travel for a whole number of reasons. So hence why you need, at least in my case, a hotel workout. And, in a hotel workout, by the way, you don't really need workout clothes or shoes. I could do that workout with whatever shoes I bring. Who cares?
Yes.
Like, doesn't matter. I think people get too wrapped around, like, okay, well, how do I wear my workout gear? Like, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe just do it. Maybe just doing the thing is like enough. Like, you just got to do it.
Yeah, if you're really serious about your workout and you're a competitive athlete or something, I mean, you're gonna bring your gear. That's not gonna be a problem. If you're not so serious that you don't have gear around, lack of access to gear cannot be your impediment. It's like a pretend impediment, Like Arnold used to squat with bare feet, and now you're telling me you need your squat shoes to squat in a hotel. Like, get out of here, man. That's not gonna work. That ability to scale your workout to like, today I'm doing as much as I can. Tomorrow I have a free day and I can go to the gym for 2 hours. That's critical because a lot of people get this thought in their head that, well, if it can't be perfect, I'm not going to do it. They even caricature this into a compliment for themselves. Like, well, I'm a real all or nothing kind of person. I'm a perfectionist. Like, I think that's a form of mental illness. All jokes aside, like, that's not a good thing. You want to be able to accommodate your workout and your diet to what you're doing, because like, look, life's not always going to be perfect. And if you think life's always going to be perfect, why the hell are you out of shape? That's a little bit of imperfection right there to begin with.
Yeah. So like when you're designing a strength training program for someone, so you take all those things into account, and obviously I would assume like their past training, some injuries, right? Like, so that all of these factor in, but taking a perfectly healthy adult with some past fitness and strength training, now if you tell them to do a squat clean, they know what that is.
Okay.
Like so like that kind of person.
But yeah.
Well, I mean, well, it is. So it's like maybe that's too advanced. I don't know. If you tell them do a squat, like they know how to do it.
Sure.
Like if you had to pick. Maybe this is a dumb question for somebody, like, I don't know. You tell me if it's a dumb question, but it gets asked a lot. Like, top 3 exercises, if you're never allowed to do any other exercises again for the rest of your life, like, how would what would those be? Maybe you can pick 5. I don't know.
Yeah, candidly, it's a fucking ridiculously dumb question.
Dumb question.
I don't understand where you're going to be confined to that you're going to be prevented from doing all other exercises. It's cool. It's quirky. I think as a forcing function, it's an interesting question to ask, like, hey, what are some really, really good exercises?
That's what it's meant to do.
Really high bang for the buck. Yeah, exactly. And then in that case, something like the clean and press is a really good exercise because it has a deadlifting component, it has a bit of a rowing component, it has an upright row component, it has an overhead component, and it trains like 80% of your body. And if you can do a decent clean, even a continental style clean, which doesn't have a knee rebend or anything, then the clean and press for sets of 5 to 10 reps, multiple sets with short rest, man, it'll just kind of fry you out and give you everything you need.
Yeah.
Lots of push-ups and pull-ups, or at least pull-downs and machine presses are really good to hit the pushing and pulling parts of the body. Things like deadlifts and lunges, upright rows, dips, things that technically exercises that train a lot of muscles at the same time don't bias any one muscle particularly. So for example, incline close grip bench trains your chest and your shoulders and your triceps, but it's close grip. So it trains them all about the same. Incline wide grip bench trains your chest really well, but not your triceps super well. Skull crushers are great if you have lots of time, but they only train your triceps, so they're not as awesome. So picking exercises like underhand pull-ups and pull-downs, close grip presses, squat and lunge variants, deadlift variants, plenty of cleans and things like that are really, really awesome because they hit a ton of your body. You can do them for sets of 10 to 15 reps with short breaks in between, which gives you also a great cardio workout, and it burns plenty of fat. It builds tons of muscle, and it does something very important. It puts hair on your chest, because if I'm doing sets of 10 in clean and press, I'm throwing up afterwards, and I guess the vomit would get caught in the hair. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say, man. The shit is difficult. And there are 2 functions of difficult exercises. One is when you're younger, it probably toughens you up a little bit. When you're older, it probably just pisses you off. But the other function of difficult exercises is as a massive stress reliever because, you're in DC all day dealing with politics shit. You're probably not like super happy at the end of the day many days. You get in there and you do like a CrossFit workout, man, you're happy as a clam right after because shit just hurts too much for you to focus on anything else. And when things are really, really tough afterwards, it feels quite nice. So I think a lot of people could be training way harder, taking fewer rest breaks, doing higher reps of stuff, and pushing close to failure because the psychological benefits there are massive as well as the physical benefits.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you definitely get more of that high than as opposed to like a 2-hour gym session where you're taking a lot of breaks and you're just kind of going through the motions. And it's something I definitely see a lot of in any gym I go to. I probably spend less time than everybody else I see in there when I just have less time, but you got to make the most of your workout. I've never been part of CrossFit. That's not to say I haven't done CrossFit workouts. I do a lot less of them now, simply because I've had an injured shoulder since about 2021. That's injured enough to where I can't do those presses. I can do them with a dumbbell and I can do a kettlebell snatch, no problem, but I cannot press. So, and bench press is out of the question too. It just is what it is. But, a machine still works. You just got to work with what you got and not make excuses, and make sure you're and generally my strength, I don't think has changed, even as I get older. Deadlifts are a big one. I like them because I'm good at them. You mentioned barefoot squats from Arnold Schwarzenegger. What's your opinion on that? Like, some would say like you should do all this stuff barefoot. Does it matter?
That's mostly nonsense, It's just like vibes. Shoes are better for almost everything than barefoot. I mean, imagine I told you had to go on an op barefoot and be like, it's going to connect you to the earth, man. You're going to really feel your rig on your shoulder. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? There's step on nails and shards and stuff. So in the gym, I don't know.
A little different.
A little different. But let me give you the gym analogy. Your feet, when you're stressed, which you should be when you're working out, your feet actually sweat. And then so you start to slide apart on you. And stability is a core factor for producing maximum forces. And it also keeps you safe as shit. So if you have a shoe's not going to slide anywhere compared to your bare foot.
Right.
Also, weightlifting shoes, like you see people in CrossFit, people in sport of weightlifting, and some bodybuilders wear, they have a heel that's really, really solid. It elevates you a little bit and puts you into really, really good mechanics for really awesome squats and pulls that bare feet don't necessarily do. And so the other thing with bare feet is like, also, I know this is kind of weird, but realistically, like hygiene, there's all kinds of nasty fucking bugs at the gym, man. And you get your bare feet everywhere and putting them on benches and shit. Like I train barefooted all the time in my own gym when I'm not training legs, but I don't have any friends and no one ever comes to see me. In a real public gym, first of all, they won't let you train barefoot most of the time. And also
That's true.
Barefoot training is usually total. Here's another problem with barefoot training. You drop a dumbbell on your foot and you have a shoe on, whatever. You drop it on your bare feet, you're going to the hospital and they're going to tell you, hey, your nail's coming off. This is fun. Just squint really hard and it'll be over when we pull it off. That's no fun. You've been involved in injuries and shit like that. That's no good. So barefoot training, I think in my view, must have all these really big biomechanical advantages if it's going to be something you take all these risks for. And the reality is it just has pretty much no biomechanical advantages that to me, as somebody trained in the field, are apparent. In some contexts, they're really nice. Some people who wear really soft shoes all the time can benefit from a more barefoot walking, barefoot running, but it's not some kind of panacea, and it's definitely not true to say like bare feet's how you should train.
What I've been seeing go around the internet a lot, and it makes a lot of sense, is that I don't know if they're referencing studies, but I think they are. Whoever they is, whoever I saw on the internet, I don't remember.
Come on, you work for the government. You know exactly who they are. Them.
We can get into that if you like. It's just a separate conversation. And they're listening, so you got to be careful.
Always, of course.
What was I going to ask? It's becoming clearer and clearer that the number one indicator of longevity is either VO2 max or your muscle. I mean, the amount of muscle that you have. I've kind of heard both. What's your take?
Yeah, so like there's good and bad to that. I'll say the bad stuff first. Both VO2 max and muscle strength decline in people that are very old and people that are very sick, and usually a combination of the two. For no reason for the fitness, they're just really old and really sick. And so it's a correlation, not causation type of thing. Like increased incidence of ice cream consumption does not actually cause shark attacks. It's just people on the beach for both during the summer. That kind of thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah. However, having a higher degree of muscle mass, at least normal muscle mass, and not very below that, confers tons of health benefits. It reduces systemic inflammation. It makes you anti-diabetic. It extends your mobility and your quality of life. It powers the movement that allows you to stay healthy and active. Being healthy and active raises your VO2 max. If you have a VO2 max, you have all the cellular physiology and the central physiology to make you insanely healthy with a buffer. So it's not that muscularity and VO2 max is necessarily the best way to measure longevity, but when those aren't doing so well, shit's going to hit the fan. It's like if your car is, from 1988 and it's creaking like shit, it's not the creaking specifically that's breaking your car, but if your car is creaking, it's probably going to break really fucking soon. So the same thing with strength and VO2 max. So one thing we can do in exercise science is look at older individuals and the people that have high degrees of strength and high degrees of VO2 max. We can ask the question of like, what are they doing differently to support those? Sometimes it's just like grandma and grandpa. They just have baller genetics. So like they're just Polish enough, and they're just like, just never die or whatever. But the other thing is like, well, some of them eat better. Some of them have a physical activity hobby and some of them actually work out. And when we isolate those groups of people, they outlive everyone. And while they're alive, they have a higher quality of life because you can die after 20 years of not moving in a nursing home, or you can die after like an entire lifestyle of activity and then you just like, just one day you just don't wake up. One of those is way better than the other. So for all those reasons, it is important to train for strength and for muscle mass. It is important to train for cardiovascular ability, but that exact thing that VO2 max and muscle mass literally cause you not to die, not exactly how that works.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's a correlation that it's an indicator of being healthy overall. Being healthy overall means less chance of disease, et cetera. I wonder if some studies have done the proper methodology, which would be, okay, you take two perfectly healthy individuals with no other outside externalities affecting their health, one being super active, one maybe not fat, but just like been skinny fat their whole life, right? Just never tried to put on any muscle. There's maybe supposedly one outlives the other, but again, it could be indicators and correlations as opposed to direct causality. I don't know that we know.
Yeah, there is some causality there for sure. Like muscle mass does help you age better, and having higher cardiovascular fitness does help you age better for sure. It's not all causality, but there is a substantial amount. So we do have studies like that, and they do show that people that work out and have a higher level of muscle mass, better cardiovascular fitness, not only do they outlive other people, but they also have a higher quality of life, which is like
Right.
super important too, because that shit matters. Quality of a really low quality life is arguably to some people not as worth living.
Right. However we nitpick the terms, the point is it's better to be strong and fit. Like it's just better.
Just
For a lot of
better.
reasons. just,
I mean,
it's
it's
just
actually
better.
some
If
of the
for no
stuff
other
we're
reason,
finding
just
out
for your sense of vanity. I mean, sometimes at this point, I'm like, why am I training? I'm not a SEAL anymore. Well, you don't want to look fat, and I can't be a fat ex SEAL, and that's not what they elected. It's just not.
That's true. That's
It's
true.
simple as that.
Yeah.
The worst thing is like, I have some buddies who like maybe got out of shape after a point of time, and somebody will be like, "Oh, you don't look like a SEAL." I'm like, "Ha."
That sucks.
I don't ever want someone to say that about me. That would be bad.
Yeah, that blows. Well, vanity is important too because it matters. It matters to individual people. Like how a woman who is 100 pounds overweight gets treated by everyone in her life, pretty much her whole life, is like really, really different than a woman who is not 100 pounds overweight. And it's really fucking toxic and it's awful. So I think even vanity is a big deal. But also exercise.
It's a good motivator.
It's a great motivator. There's nothing wrong with it. Also, exercise has a great deal to do with cognitive health. That's one thing people very much still underestimate. It turns out that if you work out, you have a high muscle mass, high VO2 max, and you work out regularly and eat well, you just end up being smarter for longer. Now, personally, my favorite president of all time, a member of your party, I believe, was just in office. Fucking brilliant to the end of his time. I'm talking about Joe Biden, of course. I'm sure I'm allowed to say that on this program. But JK, all jokes aside, and with all due respect,
And also not my party.
I was kidding. Hey, wait, hold on a second. Who briefed this guy?
Gotta correct the record.
But like, obviously there's tons of genetic variables and things like that, but how you age brain wise is a big deal between being that 65-year-old at like, the General Motors, like meeting of the board that's sharp as fuck. And you're like, God damn, I see how that guy got his job, versus being 65 and being like, I don't think grandpa should be given the keys ananymore. I don't think he knows where he's going.
Really
you can move that
driving.
needle.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can move. He's going to the White House. Okay, I'm done. I swear. Come on, a few Biden jokes. I'm allowed. No, is that not? No.
I don't know. It's perfectly allowed. It's perfectly allowed.
There you go. So
we get away with a lot on
matters.
this podcast,
No,
honestly. So before we actually started the recording, I was asking you where you're from. I don't even know where you live, and you said Detroit. I just mentioned that I was, just in the Detroit area for my grandma's funeral, and she lived to 103. My grandpa on my mom's side lived to 93. He went earlier just because he had a bad car wreck. That just had a hard time recovering from over the next year or two. But she lived to 103, and I interviewed her while she was still pretty sharp at age 101.
Holy shit!
And I got like 5 hours of like good interviews with her, and gave it to all the family, and it was really cool. But like, she was sharp still. I was asking her all sorts of questions about her life. That was kind of the point, right? Like really document it. And still sharp at 101. And what did they do differently? I don't know. They played a lot of golf. They retired
nice.
just outside of San Diego. They played a ton of golf. Eventually she had to be moved back to Michigan into kind of an assisted living facility. Still some exercise, I think, but they ate, I think it's normal food, right? Like it's just a normal home cooked meals, nothing exceptional, and stayed active. I'm not sure what this is. And she's got that Austrian like peasant stock blood.
Yeah,
so
hell yeah, man.
So that might have had something to do with it too. It's hard to say exactly what it is. But
for an individual, it's really tough to say. Yeah.
You can only kind of speak in broader terms. What's your take on like the Make America Healthy Again? What does that mean? I'm not sure what it means to me. What it means to me, I think, is kind of most of the things we've just been talking about. Like, let's actually just start talking about nutrition and fitness, and not being scared to, right? There's this like, oh, you're fat shaming, or you're not being inclusive. You're making people feel bad about their bodies. It's not their fault. It's like, there's very few cases where it's not your fault, but I don't know. What's your take on that? And then what's your general take on the like what it should mean?
So like, my dad, both my parents are card-carrying Republicans, and my dad would do unspeakable things for President Donald Trump. I'll put it that way. And biggest fan ever, right? And so I am very, very familiar with conservative values. And one of the core tenets of the conservative platform that I think is incredibly valuable for America is an emphasis on personal responsibility, and an emphasis on the idea that, yes, society can fuck you 5 ways from Sunday. However, it's on you as an adult to make some decisions that push you into the right direction, even if you need the help, and maybe you'll get it, even if it's not all on you, and it's not, but you got to do something about it. Yeah. To me, that's a big deal. And what I see with the Make America Healthy Again platform is a whole lot of that, and I think it's awesome. Yeah. But I also see some stuff which is kind of a little bit beside the point. So a little tiny critique, food dyes and stuff like that. Like, the evidence is really, really clear. And I am a scientist. That's what I do for a living. I look at the evidence. The harm from food dyes is a fucking rounding error. And it's sure as shit not causing people in the drive-thru to weigh 400 fucking pounds. As a matter of fact, too much food dyes would poison you and prevent you from gaining weight. That's not here nor there. So the food dyes are, to me, teeny little bit of a misplaced priority. And it also relieves people of personal responsibility, because I think some people can think, well, it's the fast food corporations, it's the food dyes, it's the preservatives. No, motherfucker, it's you ordering 2 fries when you should be ordering none, or half every now and again. So to me, I think it's one of those things where I like that President Trump drinks a Diet Coke. I think that's dope. That's a good start. Coke Zero and Diet Coke. 0 calories, incredibly good for your health, has no negatives to your health whatsoever.
Is it
outside of
though?
if
I
you
thought
drink
the artificial sweeteners in those things were like shown to be even worse. Is that not
It's one of the
true?
biggest myths of all time. Artificial
Really?
sweeteners are innumerably healthier for you than just cramming sugar down your gullet. 100%. One of the best things you can do for your diet is to take all the soda out and replace it with diet soda. People lose just pounds and pounds and pounds of weight. All their health metrics shoot through the roof. It's an amazing thing. So what I'd say is this. The best parts of Make America Healthy Again are putting the onus back on individuals, empowering individuals to make better choices. And you know what, man? Politically incorrect take, I think 9 times out of 10, people know what the good choice is. They're just not making it. How many times you see people in a Walmart aisle with a bag of chips and you're like, hey, do you believe that's a healthy food? They're going to be like, come on, get out of my face, man. Stop. You're like, here's a stalk of broccoli. Is that better? They're like, of course it's better, man. I just feel like some chips.
Yeah, I want
that
some
is
chips.
a personal responsibility issue, and everyone gives me shit for saying it, but it's true.
I say a lot. No, I completely agree because it's like nutrition. I mean, people are making all this. There's a lot of controversy over the bullshit food pyramid that we had for so many years.
I can speak to that as well.
I mean, and it's wrong, right? Like it's so obviously wrong. There was we famously made fun of my alma mater, Tufts University, because they put out they were part of a study that basically said like red meat or like Fruit Loops are healthier than red meat.
Yeah,
You know, it's just so
they say shit like that.
it's so obviously untrue. Well, I'd love to hear your take, but it's like I guess the final point I want to make is it's as you said, it's not hard to find the truth these days, and it hasn't been hard for a while. Like the truth has been
around.
the truth has been out there for 20 years. I don't know. I think so.
Yeah.
Like whether it's paleo diet when that was a fad or whatever, like we could nitpick at each of these diets, but in the end, they're all kind of saying the same basic thing, which is just eat normal fucking food. Like
Whole
just
foods,
eat
fruits
normal
and
food.
veggies.
Like meats are good for you.
Yep.
Just like it just isn't that complicated. And we're getting more and more complicated. I just saw a video from a doctor being like, I haven't eaten vegetables in 5 years, and it's but he only eats meat. Like it's a pure. He says you
Yeah,
can get everything you
I
need
know who
from
that
meat.
is. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true. Some people swear by the all meat diet. Like Jordan Peterson's, like he's like it cured me, and his daughter as well. Like I don't know. It's a case study. It's like they feel great. They look. I don't know.
I know they have some genetic stuff going on where they
Yeah.
need that sort of thing because they're super allergic to a bunch of stuff.
Yes,
That makes
yeah,
a ton of sense. So that makes sense. I'll tell you this, man. The food guide pyramid, the original, was actually not so terrible. It wasn't the best, and it missed a lot of nuance, and it honestly should have been damn near upside down. That as it was constructed, it was reasonable. There's a problem with the food guide pyramid. Nobody followed the food guide pyramid. You get this really crazy thing with some policy folks where they'll say, we had 30 years of the food guide pyramid and it led to more obesity. They're like assuming people actually follow the food guide pyramid.
Yeah,
Dan,
that's a
how
good
many
point.
people have you
That's a
ever
good
shopped
point.
with or talked to that ever looked at the food guide
Yeah, hold
pyramid?
on. I got my list and I got my food pyramid and
Pyramid
just
say-
make sure we're good. Okay, yeah, you're right. No, it's total
ridiculous.
bullshit. Yeah,
It's never, and we know from many research studies that almost no one ever gave a shit. So what ends up happening is the food guide pyramid put at the very bottom, like all
It's
these
someone
grains.
to blame. It's somebody to blame.
Yeah.
Besides yourself.
100%. They put all the grains at the bottom of the food guide pyramid, rice and pasta and cereal and shit like that. And then they put at the very top, like fats, oils, and sweets, use sparingly. Okay, how many people kept eating the grains? Almost everyone. How many people actually reduced their consumption of like unhealthy trans fats, saturated fats, and butters and oils and lards? Almost no one. They ate a little bit more fat and a ton more carbs, and they just blew up. And at the end of the day, the vast majority of people that are out of shape, that are very overfat for one reason: they overeat insanely convenient, super cheap, very tasty, high calorie foods. That's it, man. Junk food, cheeseburgers and shit like that, shakes and ice creams and chips. There's nothing wrong with those foods in moderation every now and again if you eat mostly healthy foods. But if you eat mostly junk food, you're going to have a junk body. That's not rocket science. I don't know what we're supposed to do it from a policy level because, again, you can do very not liberty-friendly things like make all the shit illegal or make it super high taxed. And then all of a sudden you live in kind of communist China, kind of a bad vibe. And at the same time, people are like, I don't know, buying like chips off of illegal food trucks. I don't want to live in that kind of America. I want to live in America America, we look at each other like human beings with decency, and we go, why are you out of shape, you think? And like, fuck, man, it's the food I eat. All right, dope. Maybe we can re-articulate the healthcare system a little bit to put some incentives in there for people to be healthier, and maybe some people that have chosen consciously not to be healthy can now choose to pay more for their healthcare. I know that's crazy. It's probably going to get cut out, but this is what I think about it.
I think about that. Again, healthcare policy is a big specialty of mine. And I do think about the fact that, look, your personal decisions are vastly increasing the overall cost of healthcare, which affects everyone's premiums and annoys everyone to no end. Healthy people are paying the same premiums as someone who makes incredibly unhealthy decisions. And, you take car insurance, for instance, like your driving record affects your rates.
Right, as it should.
As it should. It's not the same in healthcare. It's a more difficult subject because it's
Yes.
it's personal, it's life-saving. It's like there's people feel entitled to it. And by law, they kind of are. Like, you show up in an emergency room, you are entitled to that health. Like, the doctors have to treat you. It's
Sure.
when Democrats say we people are being treated, it's not true. It's just the payment systems are all screwed up, and it's a difficult problem. But in the end, it's just purely personal choice. Speaking of maybe some myths here and there, like what are some of your favorites that you're seeing online recently or not so recently that you'd want to debunk, like some of the fads?
People are saying that modern weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro and all those are bad for you. They're actually really good for you. It turns out that they're even good for people who don't have diabetes or obesity to take. They're damn near health elixirs, and they're incredibly effective with very low, very manageable side effects. I think a lot of people just have like an anti-drug policy in their head from, like, I don't know, the 80s or some shit like that. And they just like recoil at drugs. I mean, like, tons of my family's like that. And these are like incredibly effective substances, and they should be, like, allowed to be produced at high scale so that people can take them to get into better shape. So you get a lot of that. We went through the diet soda situation. Another one is like specific food ingredients. People ask you, like, it's like, what's like the healthiest thing at the store? Like, what the fuck are you going to do about it? You're going to just buy one thing at the store all the time? Get out of here. The reality is, like, lean meats, lean protein sources, which can be vegan too, veggies, fruits, whole grains, and healthy fats like avocados, avocado oil, olive oil, canola oil, nuts, nut butters. Those are the foods that you can eat in high quantities. If they're minimally processed, they are just health foods. They're just awesome. And if you're eating foods that don't fall into that category, like junk food, super hearty comfort food that damn well is bad for you, that's what shit that'll fuck you up. So if you are in a position where you're asking, hey, what foods are healthy? The answer is really just like 5 food groups. And it doesn't matter which ones. So people are like, so should I eat like broccoli or asparagus? Both. Neither. Eat 1,500 other veggies. Eat them all in combination. It doesn't matter. People like to major in the minors a lot and find like one little thing where in reality they're eating 2 cheeseburgers a day, and like that's really the problem. That's a huge, huge myth. People think they're going to hack their way to health. Like, imagine if you were teaching me how to clear rooms, and I'm like, what's the real like thing that I need to learn about room clearing that's really going to help me get through this situation? You'd be like, what are you, nuts? Like, I don't know, 50,000 hours of room clearing and raising your weapon up to the firing position and back down. Like, there's no replacement for that. And, there's no hack. A lot of people are looking for hacks. The closest thing to a hack are these weight loss medications. Give them to people like, well, I don't want to do drugs. I want to do it the hard way. Like, looks like the hard way is not working, motherfucker. You tell me.
Why haven't you done it yet? No, that's interesting. I mean, I actually haven't. I mean, I've seen the side of. I've seen people say if you're going to take Ozempic, you could see a lot of muscle mass loss, but you can replace that easily by just making sure that your protein intake is substantive, and you're good.
And lifting weights.
I mean, lifting weight. Yeah, you got to with that as a
Which
side
you should
effect.
be doing anyway, but whatever.
Yeah. No. So I haven't actually seen a lot of backlash on Ozempic, and I think it is one of those miracle drugs that it's a curious policy idea. Making it available to everyone. And the cost of that might be a lot, but the downstream savings could be massive. Because
Yeah, so available to everyone. I don't mean free in some weird Democrat free money out of the fucking ground type of shit. No offense, Democrats, y'all are great too, but we all come up with some wacky shit every now and again. I mean, like having a truly free market, like our country was founded on, so that drug companies can compete to give us the best drugs for lowest amounts of money, and then just have it on the open market. If your physician says you're okay to take it and you want to take it, like go for it. I think that's a really great policy. These drugs, like all drugs, after a while they become really, really cheap because they become commoditized, and so like a lot of these pharmacies and these compounding pharmacies now they have Ozempic and stuff like that for really, really, really cheap, and I think that's an awesome thing. I just
So is
don't
there
like
already
people,
there's already generic versions? Because I mean that's the thing we're
yeah,
talking about is generics. 'Cause,
oh
I mean
yeah,
like we also have a patent system. There has to be, right? You have to protect
yes,
intellectual property, which is
absolutely,
if, we get a drug pricing here, but people complain about the drug prices being too high, and I have to remind them, well, somebody invested billions to make that
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and they're going to get their money back when well I'm up, but I'm sick, I need it. I'm like, yeah, but you should also be happy that it exists at all.
right. It wouldn't have
You know,
existed if they didn't
it
get their
would
money back. They would have never started making it.
and then we're the only country that's making this stuff for the most part. They're like, well, I can buy it cheaper in Canada. I'm like, yeah, but look, we're the last man standing when it
It was
comes to
invented here.
innovation, and we also have access to a lot more drugs than these other countries do. It's another thing
Sure.
people forget. That's a whole other like healthcare drug pricing conversation. It feels unfair to people, but like I'm like, hey guys, but you don't want to kill the goose that laid the golden egg either. Like
No.
these pharma companies they're not angels, but they are making something.
Yeah.
We got to figure out how to get it to you. And then there's like, I'm sorry, I'll diatribe on health policy for a
Oh,
second,
by all means.
but I always say like, look, if there was just one pill for healthcare, it's just, let's do a thought experiment, and it's like that just cures everything. It just you don't have to take anything else. There's a moral and even a financial case to make that like everyone should just have it, right? You should just give it to everyone because it's the last thing you need. The problem with thinking about healthcare that way is, of course, it's not the last thing you need, and we need to innovate. We don't have a cure for cancer or Alzheimer's or all of these other things. You still have to have someone who's investing in that, and there needs to be incentives to invest in that, which is why people are like, well, Ozempic's so expensive. I'm like, well, yeah, because somebody has to make their money back. I hate that,
Sure.
but it's, I don't actually know when Ozempic started and how long that patent ended, but you're telling me that compounders are already making
It's been around
generics
for
of
a
it.
while. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ozempic's been around for a long time. It just wasn't used for obesity for most of its lifespan
Oh,
because no
that's
one
what it
had the
is.
idea to try it on that. Yeah.
What was it? What was it originally designed for?
Diabetes. Yeah.
Diabetes. Yeah,
Diabetes
and
management, which it
that's
did
right.
phenomenally well. Yeah.
That's right. And then it
Yeah.
turned out
Turns
that it
out
was like, well, wait a
if you take
second.
more of it, you don't want to eat much, and it causes all these other health benefits. I will say, since we're on the policy discussion, that massively simplifying the regulations and the approval process for the FDA is probably a really good idea because then we can get like 5 times the number of drugs through the entire system 5 times faster. And then it doesn't matter if you have a patent. Like I can have we actually have a patent on the RP Diet Coach app, literally. Who gives a shit? No
Hmm.
one cares about that. They just download another app. They're not copying us. They just went at it a different way. So yeah,
Hmm.
Ozempic is sweet. You can have a patent on that if you want. But as soon as tirzepatide came out, which was pretty recently, it's just better than Ozempic. And then retatrutide is in final stages of clinical approval right now. It's taking forever, but it's going to be better than all those three. You're not going to be able to give away Ozempic in a few years because there's 3 other drugs that are better than it. And if we have the FDA shrink down its process of how long it takes to approve drugs and also make that process really cheap for drug manufacturers, like one of the reasons drugs cost so much money is they have to pay fucking up the ass to get these things approved because the hoops they have to jump through are insane. The delays are insane. They can put a ton of money into something. The FDA is like, nah, it's not good enough. And then they just go straight to hell. And so I think like regulation is a huge problem, I think, in general, and substantially deregulating the entire economy is just going to be awesome, which is why I hugely, was enthusiastic about the last choice for presidency because Trump said a lot of really good things about like freeing up the economy and shit. Hope you guys knock
Yeah.
that one out of the park.
We're trying. FDA, that exact issue's been one of my priorities for a long time. The problem is, from a legislative perspective, it's hard to figure out what that law is. A lot of it's just, I talk to a lot of manufacturers, whether it's a biomedical device or a drug or whatever, and their problems with the FDA and how ridiculous it is. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it's just lack of communication. They'll come back and be like, not good enough, try again. And you're like, well, can you tell us like what we did wrong?
Right.
And but bad communication. wrong people in the wrong places, the wrong kind of doctor being I guess the approving manager for that particular thing when they know nothing about it.
Right.
A lot of this is just bureaucratic administrative problems that are hard to legislate. You need to do something. I totally agree. And it's something we talk about quite a bit. I do think the new administration will be better at it. It kind of remains to be seen. I think the new FDA administrator was on my podcast a while back. So yeah, they definitely have the right mindset. But in the end, like it's, as a bureaucrat, your incentive is to say no, because it's a cover your ass kind of incentive.
It's ridiculous. Costs Americans millions of lives per year because they're saying no to people that need drugs that would help them otherwise.
Yeah, but we absolutely need to deregulate, especially if we're going to, I guess right now the administration is moving towards a most favored nation policy. So that means you're effectively doing price controls on American-made drugs. That's kind of what it ends up being. That may seem fair, given that, for certain drugs, it's 10 times more expensive here than, say, in Canada. I think what people don't realize, though, is that the second tertiary effects of that are going to be, again, less investment in newer drugs. You can make up for that, perhaps, by making it cheaper to actually make the drugs in the first place and sort of cancel out that tertiary effect. But that's neither here nor there.
I thought we weren't doing price controls anymore after every economist said they were a bad idea for the history of economics, but what do I know?
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, price controls create less supply. Doesn't matter what you're supplying. If you put a price control on it, there will be less of it. In the case of healthcare, it's why we fought so hard against what the Democrats did with Medicare negotiation, if you can call it that. It's more of like a demand.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. We said like, hey, and we've seen the evidence actually, 70% less research and development dollars going into the most, let's call it, the most risky investments.
Yeah.
So, so where those dollars are going to flow into something they know will work and kind of
like
know
cosmetics.
they can sell, as opposed to, like that cutting edge thing that's risky, might take a lot of money, it might fail. It's just, the dollars just aren't going to flow there if they don't think they're going to get their money back, and it's a big problem.
Yeah.
So what would success look like to you? Like if you had to take a metric, like 10 years from now, like are you optimistic given some of these drugs like Ozempic and these other ones you mentioned? Are you optimistic that like our obesity rates go down? Is that a good metric? Do you think that we're making progress? What would be your metric?
Yeah, my metric would be how much muscle mass a person has and how much fat mass they have. We can use a bunch of other metrics, but those two start getting really getting at the situation, because if you have a country of relatively muscular, relatively lean people, you have like, I don't know, a fifth of the healthcare expenditure or something like that, something crazy. And so I'm insanely optimistic because with the recent invention / discovery of AI, we're making drugs like thousands of times faster and safer. And so even the FDA process exactly as it is doesn't matter soon, because in 3 or 4 years, every drug that passes through trials is going to be a blockbuster drug, and there will be very many of them. And a lot of these drugs are going to enhance muscle mass, and they're going to decrease fat mass like crazy. And because everyone already knows you're supposed to be fit, it's really difficult to get people to work out and eat better. Short of really draconian policy, it turns the country into a place I don't really want to live in. I don't want the government to ring an alarm at 5 a.m. and have us all go exercise. That sounds like fucking North Korea instead of America. But there's going to be, I think, a kind of a split among American people. There are going to be, like, I think, 3 main groups of people. One group in 10 years is going to be the enhancers, people that want to be in their best shape because of all the fitness knowledge, because of all of the super cheap supply of really healthy food, because of these advanced drugs and even genetic editing techniques. These people are going to be like in God shape. It's going to be awesome. And then there's going to be another group of people that like aren't trying to enhance a ton, but they're just trying to stay healthy, hit the gym a little bit, eat a little healthy, take some of these drugs and genetic enhancements. And they're going to be the healthiest Americans we've ever seen. And they're going to, reverse aging to a moderate extent and all this other really great stuff. there's going to be another group of Americans that are people who don't want the drugs for whatever reason and just fundamentally don't really care and kind of never did about their health. And because fast food companies and all the junk food companies always compete to give you the most delicious food, because, supply and demand and all, that's what you literally want. It's what you pay money for. If White Castle sold you a shit burger, you're going to McDonald's. If McDonald's sells you something you don't like, you go to Burger King. The incentive is to make the food tastier and cheaper and better and faster and all that stuff. Those people, if they don't take the drugs and they don't invest in their fitness and they don't exert a little bit of interest in their long-term health, they're going to be in the most we call obesogenic environment the world has ever seen. Like insane convenience, everyone's getting richer all the time, per capita income is skyrocketing. With the introduction of AI and robotics, it's going to skyrocket even more. We're going to have millions and millions of people that are the most out of shape you have ever seen. The fundamental reason is going to be, Dan, they just don't care enough. How you do that, what kind of traction you get that from a political angle is completely beyond me. I think it just needs an honest conversation between humans at that point.
Yeah, no, that makes it tougher. What is your as we kind of wrap this up? Like, so for somebody who is hitting the gym, does care, eating right, what are supplements that you suggest?
Multivitamin, multimineral is good to kind of check off your bases. Creatine can really help. If you have trouble getting enough protein, various protein powders. I actually am involved in a protein drink called called the Genius Shot. It's not named after me, I'll tell you that much, but it's like a protein drink. It's got only protein and 0 grams of carbs, 0 fats. You can actually take it through security through TSA because it's really tiny, it's liquid. You pump it back. So sometimes extra protein can help, especially if you're in a bind. But the reality with supplements is, outside of those and maybe a few other ones that don't do much, supplements are insanely overrated, and the vast majority of your health benefits will come from regularly hitting the gym, not overeating, eating healthy foods, and that's about it. Getting good sleep, which I'm sure as a politician you get lots of. So, there's nothing on your mind. But how is your sleep? Do you get sleep?
It really depends. It's
figured.
not a lot. So, yeah, because some of the creatine obviously comes up as just obviously proven way to build muscle. And I guess I should have specified my question was for building muscle mass.
Yeah.
And like,
I was really the same answer.
And so what about there's the new fad on peptides? There's BPC 157.
Man. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah,
supplements. Yeah. You shoot them in with a needle.
That's true. Yeah. But they're very popular right now with a lot of people. People swear by them. BBC 157, I think IGL is another. They're I always get the name wrong, but some of these they supposedly promote HGH growth. Any thoughts on those?
Yeah, they're cool. They come with pretty phenomenal benefits in context. They're not huge benefits, but they're pretty decent. And they also come with lots of side effects and risks and things you have to be careful about. Like, for example, if you take some of the growth hormone secretagogues, like MK677, for example, it's a peptide. It works really well. The thing is, if you eat a high-calorie diet with lots of carbs and you do that at the same time, your chance of going hyperglycemic, which is like more diabetic, is pretty decent. And your chance of promoting tumor growth is pretty high. And so these are things to take in the supervision of a medical doctor or the supervision of a healthcare professional. And it's not just some shit you should be ordering on the internet and using willy-nilly. I use a bunch of these things, but I'm not passing any drug tests anytime soon. And I've made some very calculated choices. And I have a team of sports medicine physicians and pharmacologists helping me make the right choices. These are like pretty intense things. So if you just want to build some muscle and improve your health, get you some creatine, get you a Genius Shot or two, get you good healthy meals regularly, get plenty of sleep, and train your ass off. You're going to do that consistently. You don't need to be perfect. Take a few weeks off here and there. Go on vacation. It doesn't matter. Come back, hit it again, hit it again, hit it again. And the big one is, don't try to lose all your weight at once. If you have 50 pounds to lose 15 pounds, coast for a few months. Lose another 10, coast for a few months. The huge rewards in fitness come from years of consistent investment. So there's not one shot, one quick fix. That's not happening anytime soon. Be consistent and you're going to do really great.
No, I agree with all that. I'm more asking like what that next advanced level. What about L-leucine? Am I saying that right?
Leucine,
leucine.
Yeah, L-leucine. Leucine's cool. If you get enough protein, it makes almost no difference. The studies that show that leucine works are for people who aren't getting enough protein. So
that's kind of my next question.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Please, no, yeah. Leucine is just something that works. There's tons of leucine in most really good protein sources. So if you're eating a lot of lean meats, for example, a leucine supplement does hardly anything at all. It also tastes like total shit, by the way.
Okay, last question then. Like the other thing you hear a lot of is, you got to eat your weight in grams of protein to really get what you need. That's so I'm 200 pounds. People underestimate my weight. I'm very thick. I'm not fat, but I'm thick.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just saying. I'm not defensive either. So just calm down. I got a six pack. I'm heavy. So
the six pack weighs a lot. There's six of them in there.
So many, so much. It's like, you don't know what it's like. So that's 200 grams of protein. That's a lot of protein. So I drink a lot of shakes just to try and like get to somewhere, but I'm sure I'm still not meeting that. Cause like I've noticed too, like if I want my energy levels to stay up during the day, like for breakfast, I eat an avocado, like a whole avocado. You just eat the avocado and I eat blueberries, and some high protein oatmeal, and I feel good, and I think it's different for everyone. Like I don't eat eggs. Eggs are good for you, but I'm like allergic to them or something. I mean, and I actually took some testing on this.
So you're good.
Yeah, I mean, I took some tests on this, and it was with a company called Viome, and I sent them all my samples, like all of them. I don't need to get into the details.
Oh, nice.
And it was really interesting. And so they sent you back like, here's a list of superfoods for you, like the really good foods for your body. Here's the ones you really aren't really great for you, and some interesting ones on that list, on the not good list, like eggs, like broccoli.
And when you eat eggs and broccoli, do you feel weird about it? Like, do you act like before they gave you the test?
Eggs. I've always. I'm like, God, but I'm supposed to eat them, so I'm just gonna keep it. But they've always felt bad. Broccoli, I don't feel bad. I think maybe they got that one wrong. Asparagus, that's also on the list. I'm like, I feel fine on asparagus. It feels good. I guess my point is that there's an interesting new science out there. It's like very personalized, which is kind of what you do with your app, right? It's like personalized medicine or workouts, because it just has to be different for everybody. It's not the same. I can't do the press. I used to be able to crush. I used to crush that. I used to do. Oh God, I might have gotten up to 300 once on a clean and press.
Make believe bullshit numbers.
No, that was it was like when you're on deployment and you're just doing it all the time. But also, you know what that led to? My fucking shoulder injury that I have now.
Yeah, that's
like it's just an imbalance, and now I just got to be more careful with how I work out. So it's just you just got to figure out what works for you. But yeah, okay. Sorry. So the question was about protein intake. Like, is that it's kind of hard to get that much protein.
Yeah. Well, so like again, shameless plug, Genius Shot. It becomes really easy. Any protein shake.
How much is in that?
So it's 23 grams of super high quality protein in each one of these shots. And so like all of a sudden you have a few of them per day, and then you just eat relatively normally and make sure you have like a nice slice of meat with every meal, and you're good to go. Okay. They're also literally shots. They go boom and you're done. That's it.
I have not seen that. Okay. Well, you might have just sold me on those things.
Yeah. Perfect. See, that's how we get into the system.
Is that the Illuminati?
Well, I have a Jewish last name. Couldn't you figure it out? Am I allowed to say shit like that, or is that getting cut out?
I don't know. I don't think it was offensive.
Once the staffers get through this, there'll be nothing left. Yeah. I am the they. But in any case,
it could have been a lot worse. I think it could have
been a lot worse. That's true. We can say, hey, we still have some time. We can still make it worse. Start going through the Epstein's checklist of the plane flight and stuff. All that. Hey, is that ever coming out or no? Or are you allowed to talk about that?
I just don't. It's not on my radar. Look, if anybody was going to have it come out, it would be this administration.
Right.
So it's not out for a reason. It's probably just not a lot of there. That's my general sense, because this administration would love to expose, if there was something juicy, they would love to do it. So, and I don't know. There's some members of Congress who are like obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with healthcare policy, trying to start a counterinsurgency war against the cartels of Mexico. That's my other big priority. So I'm working on I'm trying to stop gender transition on kids. So I've just got other priorities. What can I say?
Slightly realer problems. Yeah. So the protein thing, if you eat as much as 0.7 or 0.8 grams per pound, you're really, really good for almost every case. So if you eat 150, 160 grams of protein, you're golden. Now, if you want to become the most muscular that you're able to, if in case all of Congress is in session and all the law breaks down and it's just fist fights only. You're trying to come up
Yeah.
on top. You're trying to be the most jacked. Then, yeah, 200 grams of protein is going to do it. But 150, 160 for most people who weigh 200 pounds is totally good. Actually, if I can ask you a quick question, how
Yeah.
do you feel like as a man, as an adult male, how do you feel your chances are in like just fisticuffs against every other member of Congress? Not at the same time, just like who's giving you the most trouble? Do you think you're like rank one in Congress right now for like who, like, you know what I'm saying?
The Mark Wayne Mullen is an actual fighter. Like he's
Oh
done.
shit.
So he's a senator now. We're good friends. Like we talk about this often. Like if there's yeah, because I mean he trains in that. So like the
Yeah.
real question is, are there rules? Are there rules in this fight?
No Navy SEAL pen
Are
stabbing
there?
Jason
Well,
Bourne
that's
type of
his
shit.
thing. There's no weapons. But Mark Wayne Mullen he's done MMA for like a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody else that I'd be super worried about.
What about Nancy Pelosi and just sheer grit like that? She's
Oh
been
yeah,
through
no,
some shit. You don't want to take that fight.
Nah, she's a killer. Well, I mean, look, it's a lose-lose, right? Like, oh, I beat up a girl. Well, good job, you beat up a girl.
And then they're like,
Or you
well,
lose
why
to
are
a
you
girl.
gendering her? You're like, oh
It's
shit.
lose.
I
Well,
couldn't
it's
even-
lose-lose. Well, it's like if you challenge me to a gunfight or like not a gunfight, but like a gun competition, right? Like I can't lose. One, I'll probably beat you. Probably, right? I'm not going to beat like some sports, like some competition shooter. They're going to crush me. But
Sure.
I'm generally going to beat most people who shoot guns a lot. Because most
Right.
people who say they shoot guns a lot aren't really that good at shooting guns.
They've been at the range a few times.
So I'm going to beat you probably. But even if you beat me, well, you just beat a blind guy who I can't even front sight focus because even my good eye doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So, good job. You beat a disabled person.
Yeah, slow
Like-
clap, you asshole. Right.
Right. So, it's kind of the same with battling a woman. Like it's a lose-lose. Like, oh, so what? Oh, wow, you beat up a woman or you got beat up by a woman. Just don't beat up women. How about that? Like, that's a good
start.
Good starting point. I was trying to find the name of that other drug that you take with L-Lucid. I will say, like, just my own personal experience. I only started this
HMB
experiment.
maybe?
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay,
It's HMB.
sweet.
Because they say you're supposed to take them together. They help each other. So, because my workouts have not been what I wanted, just because my schedule has been more insane. I got a 1-year-old. Like, it's been worse than it's ever been. But I've noticed too that when I really get after it, I'm like, I'm not losing strength. Like a deadlift is a good approximation of where I'm at. Like I used to deadlift because I'm shorter, so that's one of my better lifts, and I've always had my back has always been fine, which is not the case for most military guys. But for me, my shoulder's fucked up, but my back is fine. So I've always been good at it. I think my record when I was in my 20s, I don't know, like 550. So I'm not like doing like linebacker like deadlifts, but like that. And I could right now, just the other day, I was repping 415. So
That's really
I'm
good.
not lose by repping, I mean twice, right? But I went down from 10, 8, 6, 4 to 2, so I think if I went fresh and really tried to get a max, maybe 450, if I really push it, but I don't think I should push it. I think that's stupid at this point at my age. And I think that's maybe something we should also tell people, right? Like, know yourself. People are like, what do you do in the gym? I'm like, I have no plan when I go to the gym. So I do the opposite of what your app says. Like, I have zero plan. Zero. I'm just like, I look around and I'm like, what am I feeling today? Like, what hurts? What does it? Like, and I do a lot of the exercises, like you say, like, do stuff that just is all body. I don't do leg day. I don't do arm day. I just try to do a bunch of stuff. And I don't know, that seems to work for me. I don't know but like, it could be better if I had a better program. It could always be better, but like, I'm just trying to look good at this point. I told you that. So
What do you think? You look good? Are you succeeding?
that was you know what? Yeah. You know what? I think so.
See,
I think so, but
it's
it could
nice
be
to
better.
Be nice to yourself.
But it could be better. I've looked better. I think we should end the podcast now. I gotta let you go, and I gotta go. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you
for
so
being
much,
on,
man. Huge fan. Take care.
Appreciate what you do. To get people going in the right direction.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Same.
All right.